Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Carry the G Radio, the podcast. For the bit of I think the last time as a podcast. Are we going to be radioing it next week? Did I
I
just
think this
realize
is the
that
last
live
time.
as I
Yeah.
talk about it? So yeah, the last podcast. That means we're out of the off season, Billy. That means there's a football game on Friday night that actually counts when it comes to the W column, because that's what the Packers are about to do. They're about to go to Brazil and take home a W. That's what I'm talking about. How you doing,
Eat
Billy?
the W. I'm doing good, brother. I'm glad that you're talking about just a football game on Friday night that's not the Warhawks against McGuanago. This is a big one, man. I'm really, really excited to be out of the offseason,
Right.
out of contract negotiation conversation.
None of that.
I mean, let's be completely honest with you here. I think if we just keep calling it a podcast on a radio show, no one's ever thought about doing that.
No,
Nobody's doing
we are
that.
going to blow some people's minds.
That's how we get this to get Kelsey level sponsorship. So the next one we sign is like a 9-figure deal.
It's like $100 million for Amazon or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, we have 9 figures worth of listeners, so I think we should sign a 9-figure podcast deal.
I mean,
so
we'd obviously barter it against iHeartRadio, being like, iHeart, you guys get first crack, but Amazon's in the hopper. They're interested. You better pony up if you want to keep this.
Corey Banky's in the mix. I mean, like we already know that there's gonna be a crazy amount of money thrown around. Like, I don't know. We'll see.
Clearly. Obviously.
Maybe American Airlines. Like you don't know where we could dip in on some cash.
Any possibility. Funnily enough, I am flying American.
There we go.
Wednesday night.
Don't tell my guy Armin Sarin. He gets. They may have broken one of his suitcase zippers one time, and you swear they opened his suitcase,
and did it on purpose.
Najee Davenport in the suitcase, closed it back up, and put it on the plane.
Here's the dirty little secret that no one ever wants to talk about, right? When they talk about being like mad at a certain airline, they're all the same, guys. Like you can find an incident that was terrible.
Yes.
With every single one of them.
Everyone.
There ain't a one. There ain't a Delta. There ain't an American, United. Name an airline.
Alaskan Airlines. They've all canceled.
They've all.
Oh yeah.
Somebody over, right?
Yes.
At some point. So.
Except Midwest Express, they never did that, and that's why.
Exactly. That's why they're no longer around. They didn't. They never anybody over, so they didn't survive.
They weren't shrewd enough.
That's how you survive. You
makes
people over.
That makes sense. Oh man,
Midwest
I'm so
Express,
fired up.
What a pull! What a pull, Midwest Express.
Early days here in the Milwaukee area where people still talk about them cookies. I mean, like that is.
I was just gonna say the cookies were the whole point. That's the whole. I am not lying to you when I tell you that my girls, when they were little, we flew to Milwaukee from New York on Midwest Express, and we got those cookies, and they did not shut up about the Midwest Express cookies for years.
Amazing.
I'm telling you, years of them talking about, can we go back on the plane with the cookies? I'm like, well, maybe work that out, and then they folded. So
yeah.
So much
and then AirTran came in, and I still remember watching the news at the dinner table with my mother that night when they fully ceased operations. Nags, so it was a heartbreaking day in the city of Milwaukee. It really was. Yeah. Then, years and years later, I wonder if that's how people are going to start talking about the Southwest Airlines pick your own seat.
Now that pick your own seat is coming to an end. Man.
People are going to wax poetically about that in a decade from right now. So I love the way that we're changing this up. And instead, your 11 and a half hour flight?
10 hours.
10-hour flight?
Actually, just under 10 because it's direct from JFK to Sao Paulo. So
that's fantastic.
I'm going because I looked at the whole let's try and get to Orlando first and then fly from there to try and save some money. But I was going to save like $200 or something. Maybe $300, and I'm like, you know what? It's worth it. She said TV can pony up a couple extra $100. I'll do a few more super chats to try and make sure that I don't have to have a layover on my way to Sao Paulo.
That's what I'm talking about. And that you're not doing a layover Packers Daily. Now, what's the? Now we're going to get into the game, and I apologize for hijacking the situation.
No, this is much more interesting than us talking about the game. Obviously,
how are you going to be? Sending stuff through. Are we going to be you
asking about the Twitter breakdown there from
because we talked about it on the radio show today. All right,
now, I heard you guys. It was interesting. You guys have some interesting theories.
I told Kuhn delete the app. All right. And he's like, I'm doing it. All right. I'm deleting the app. I'm like, I don't want any of you guys getting in on this stuff. Match Diamond's like, I'm going to send it to my brother and then he's going to tweet out. I'm like, fellas, I don't want somebody while you're sitting there at Arena Corinthians. I'm also doing that correctly now because it's south of the equator. They flip it around instead of Corinthians Arena.
Which is funny. It's like, that's not even the actual name, but that is the name that's most well known by. But there's another name that I can't remember off the top of my head that it is the official name of the stadium. But like, yeah, whatever.
So this would be like calling Veterans Memorial Stadium the Vet. Exactly. And everyone would be like, yeah, that's what it is.
That's what it is, right?
That's it. That's what it is. That's what it is.
Exactly.
So then I'm like, guys, let's make this as easy as possible. Nobody's getting locked up abroad. Delete the app. Fire a tweet off when you get home. But I mean, I don't know. Is that the same situation? YouTube and everything else? Like, are we? No,
YouTube's fine. I'll be doing my post game chat like I always do. I'll be doing my gut reactions. But when it comes to Twitter or not doing Twitter, I mean, Threads is available. It's a live microblogging platform. Operates very similarly to
people are on Threads.
Twitter, whatever. I'll tell you what, Threads goes through a weird kind of up and down where I think it's dead, and then all of a sudden there's a kind of pretty vibrant community. I'll tell you what. Mark Zuckerberg should send a thank you note to Elon Musk because all of a sudden, because of Brazil outlawing Twitter, it's popping all of a sudden. Like, I've got a ton of follows, got people interacting there. So I'll be doing all my live updates on Threads on Friday night. So
boom, okay.
There won't be any live tweets. There won't be tweeting or whatever while I'm down there, which is kind of liberating in a way. I got to admit, I'm kind of looking forward to just not having to worry about it. Not even like looking at it. So yeah, I don't know.
I somehow have a very, very good ability to unplug on vacation. People are like, "How do you do that?" I'm like, "It's pretty easy. I just don't respond, and just don't worry about it."
When I was forced to do that, when I was on the trip with my dad, when my account got hacked, I will say,
"Oh yes,
remember that?" Like I was tweeting away. I think there was a soccer game on, and I was like following along. I remember I was listening to the Brewers game, watching a soccer game, and just playful banter with people back and forth. And then all of a sudden, the account got hacked. And then that stretch for the remainder of the trip where I didn't have access to Twitter, man, I was like I was a junkie who couldn't get his fix.
Just scratching.
It was awful. It was awful because it's like so ingrained in my daily process, right?
Yeah.
Not just sports either, like just life.
And here I thought you just weren't responding to my DMs because you didn't want to give me a MacBook Pro.
There was no free MacBook Pro coming your way. No discounted MacBook Pro for you, Billy.
I really thought I was going to get one. I mean, like, I send that to every single one when I see that bad boy.
I don't want to embarrass anybody, but I had 2 people in the media, the local media, that who texted me thinking they were going to jump the line. Like, you make sure I'm in on this MacBook Pro thing. I'm like, my guys.
Oh my God. Do any of them work here?
What's that?
Any of them work here?
No, nobody, no coworkers of yours, but definitely people you know.
2 people. That is awesome. That is awesome.
So it was. Thanks I was just like, and then like made it even worse because I'm like, my guy.
My brother in Christ.
Oh, it was
what are you thinking? It is not true.
So we'll be doing live updates on Threads all throughout the game, and then I will be doing my live post game chat on YouTube from the media workroom.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So, all the coverage remains, doesn't stop. And look, I'm thinking I'm going to be covering a pretty damn good football game. Because here's the thing. Like, I understand the historic nature of the event itself. Obviously, the first NFL game in South America, let alone Brazil. All of the kind of trappings of the event, I can't wait till that all kind of fades away after the ball gets kicked off, right? And they're just playing football. And I got to think, the more you look at this game, I mean, what a fun matchup for week 1, especially considering I think we talked about this a bit last week. All the unknowns only add to the Eagles were terrible at the end of last year in the secondary. They've clearly addressed it, but there's still a whole lot of question marks there. And then you flip it around, you look at the Packers' offensive weapons, and you start kind of, rubbing your hands together a little bit. If you're a Packers fan thinking, okay, there are some places we could probably take advantage of this team. Like, there are some definite kind of ways that this offensive skill group can probably, move the ball, score some points. But then you remember, it's all about holding up front so Jordan Love can do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, that defensive front for the Eagles is no joke.
I'm really excited.
Not a joke.
Because you mentioned it, like once the actual football settles in and like the second quarter comes around,
Right.
where all the pageantry and the excitement is worn off, I'm excited for a couple of things. Like I want to know whose offense changes more with their high priced running back.
Right.
You get Barkley, who you would assume is the bigger upgrade. However, that's acting like DeAndre Swift is some slouch. I mean, he was one of the best running backs in football for the first 9 weeks last year. Well, everything was one of the best in football for the first 9 or 10 weeks for the Eagles last year, right? Their offensive line was dominating. Jalen Hurts was tush pushing all over the place. And then apparently him and Nick Sirianni started hating each other, and everything went
Not
to hell in
even
a handbasket.
speaking to each other at one point. What?
So, like, I think the
coach kept his job. That's crazy to me.
With Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick, and albeit the furthest of outsiders, Nick Saban available. Right. Just think about that. All available. Yeah. And Mike Vrabel. But say that to say this. I think Barkley, people are expecting to be a more dramatic shift into what the Eagles looked like all year last year.
Right.
I don't think so. I think he plays pretty well into their scheme, a lot of wide zone, a lot of inside zone. I think it works. I think that's kind of how Kellen Moore wants to play. They'll trap a little bit, but I think it fits. I think Jacobs in Green Bay, while the last 5 to 6 weeks, Nags, we talked about it at nauseum, the yards and the amount of touches that Aaron Jones was putting together and how different their offense looked that way. Maybe it's not different from the last taste we had in our mouth of how much the Packers utilize under center run action that way
to keep the defense off balance. 100%.
It was the best version of their football team a year ago. So yes. I think the totality of the 2024 Green Bay Packers looks a lot more like it did in the back half of the season, and it's directly because number 8 is in the backfield.
Here, let me run this by you, because this is something I've had in the back of my head where I'm like, if I'm Matt LaFleur, and everybody should really thank their stars, I'm not. But one of the things I would try to utilize if I'm Matt in this game is tempo.
Mm-hmm.
And try and tire out those beasts in the middle for the Eagles, who are, we talked about it last week, they are no joke.
Yeah, get the Rhinos off the field.
The more I've kind of dove into the local coverage and what the Eagles beat has written about and talked about when it comes to, the question marks that every team has going into a week 1 game, right? And what they're kind of trying to learn from last season and trying to either correct or get better at, etc. Well, it seems like conditioning was a bit of an issue.
Sure.
For not just those 2 guys, but kind of the defensive line in general. So if I'm LaFleur, I mean, we've heard him talk about his own team's conditioning. Maybe that's one of those things where you've got Gene Hackman and Hoosiers talking about no team of mine will run out of gas before his opponent,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're kind of concentrating on that aspect of their team in the hopes of, okay, let's push the tempo a little bit. Let's go a little bit more no huddle. Let Jordan call some of these plays, which is something, again, that he talked about this summer.
Sure.
The 2-minute drill, letting Jordan call that stuff he's comfortable with. I don't think they come out of the gate with it. I don't think that's like an opening drive thing. But at some point, second quarter, all of a sudden you put your foot on the gas, make those guys, A, stay on the field, and B, run a ton of plays, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that could potentially be a wrinkle, right? When you're always looking for, well, what can you throw at them? What even slightest edge can you maybe get on a pair of really dominating players? I think that's something they could look at. We'll see.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. 2015 was the McCarthy. We're going to come out in no huddle seemingly every single time, right? Like we ran through the years of it with Kuhn, and it was one of my favorite shows that we've done, where like he outlines how the offense changed year by year by year. I'm with you. I don't think it's as quickly as that, but conversely, from when generally you would hit the gas pedal, pick up the tempo when star pass rusher is off the field.
Right. Keep him on the sideline.
Maybe you want to keep Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis on the field if you are planning to push the ball through the air. Like,
well, especially,
if you're part of how you go with it.
If you're spreading it out, right? Because here's the thing. We know that stretch you're talking about at the end of last season, that is really predicated on being able to switch out your guys play after play. Like you're going from 11 personnel to 12 personnel to, a 5 wide look. And then like that's switching every play. So you're subbing in and out. But if you get to a point where, again, later on in the game, that you kind of throw that at them and you've got personnel that you can get in and out of a lot of different types of plays, the illusion of complexity, if you will. But you push the tempo and you don't allow them to sub. That, again, I just think that's one kind of on the margins type of thing that they could look at to try and do. Because look, if they play this traditionally, straight up, what have you, and try and run the ball between the tackles, it's going to be tough early. I love Jacobs, but it's going to be tough. And that's also why I think we're going to see, maybe not a ton, but I think we're going to see a lot more of Josh Jacobs as a receiver in this game, and especially early in the season, than we being the NFL community, seen in his entire career. I really think this is going to be a case of trying to get him in space with the ball in his hand in the passing game.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I'm higher on him in fantasy football than many people are, because I think his passing and his receiving ability will be more spotlighted by the Packers, and some of it out of necessity, like you just mentioned there, Nags. I also think it's some of what they do best, right? Like getting Elton Jenkins out in a screen along with Josh Myers. We've seen those guys be able to open up some good holes in open space. I also I'm fascinated to see this Eagles defense, because I can't remember one, Nags. I don't remember a team that Vic Fangio took over and their defense got worse. They might hate him like they did in Miami.
Right. It just doesn't.
They might not like him, but they're better. They were better last year. So I'm interested to see how he deploys and plays with those chess pieces, because like Sweat didn't play at all during the preseason. I don't think Huff played much at all during the preseason. Nobody really did. Both of these teams are going to be very, very new, and that's where the conditioning does come in. This is however much you work, however many practices like they ran in Denver, you run 90-some plus plays. There's nothing like game speed. And you're seeing it a lot early in college football, where there's a ton of cramping going on. I expect that to be a facet of Friday night's game, first one south of the equator, where the NFL maybe deals with this a little bit.
I'm glad you brought that up. You know what's fascinating? And I was looking at this literally just this morning. In Sao Paulo, there's the kind of the return of a real kind of heat wave almost. Like, for Brazil, it's not that pronounced, but
because it's coming out of winter, correct?
Right.
I mean, I wasn't great in. You're talking to a second place in the geography bee in
well done, buddy.
5th grade, but not dusted.
But it's hot in general, right? It's going to be, I believe, the day before the game, it's set to be 90 degrees in Sao Paulo.
You're going
to but overnight there's cloud cover, and it's supposed to drop down to like 75. The evening of the game,
Angler weather.
Right now, the evening of the game is set to be between like 55 and 60.
Wow.
I'm going to be wearing a hoodie.
How happy are you?
Dude, the press box is outside. It's in the seats. I'm so excited.
God, so you're actually when I saw that,
and then it literally, and then the next day, it gets back to like 90.
Wow.
It's like the gods, the football gods were like, we need football weather.
Yeah, we need to get football weather in here. It's wild how the stars are aligning for this to be perfect for the NFL. Now, we had some individual on the talking text line earlier today, sir.
Oh, bet you did.
Yeah, NFL can't like this. Why are they even doing this? It seems like everybody's scared to go and worried. I'm like, the NFL is scared of anything getting bleeped up.
Sure.
Because it's their first time going, and I don't fault them for that, right? Like if I was Roger Goodell, I would have sent out the edict. Nobody's leaving the hotel, right? I'm sorry. I apologize. I want you guys to all enjoy this trip. You know when you're really going to enjoy it? When you get home. But we're going to make sure this is good. We're going to make sure it works well.
Because we want to come back
again and again and again and again and again and again.
It's so funny you say that, because my buddy Monty tweeted this out, and he's spot on. He's like, it's so funny how blatantly obvious it is. They are petrified of some guy doing something fucking stupid down in Brazil and fucking it all up, right? So now they've couched it, though, in like, oh, we just want you to be safe. We just want you to be safe. Oh, it's so dangerous. Just be safe. It's like, no, you're scared someone's going to be doing something stupid. Like, that's it.
And I don't mean it this because it was a horrendous situation that she got caught up in. But like, if people look at what happened to Brittany Griner, we look at in the USA right. Like, okay, a vape pen, seriously. Well, listen, other countries is a different deal. I don't know what the situation will be like in Brazil. I know the NFL has vetted this to Mars and back.
Yeah.
However, they're sitting here saying, you're going to tell me out of traveling parties of like 300 people on each side, one person does something stupid and then it becomes the national headline? I think that's why they're urging people to say, hey,
that's 100% it.
Just don't do anything. Be as you are church mice.
Go play the game. Come home.
Get home. And then maybe you got to crawl. So then the next group can walk and maybe they get there on Monday.
Right.
And then maybe they do a photo shoot at the beach. Right. Like you can do that kind of stuff, but there's levels to this. There's layers. We can't just go diving into the bottom of the 7-layer cake.
And to all the people who are like, why are they doing it? Because there is an untapped marketplace of like insanely rabid NFL fans. This is just their first taste.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only going to grow from here. The media rights alone. I mean, that's really why they want to expand. And that's why they want to make this a thing, you know?
Yes.
And the money is just, the spigot is about to be turned on if this works.
And I am, this will be my tinfoil hat deal. I know a lot of people think I'm funny when I say this. Like,
oh boy, here we go.
The NFL is looking for players. The NFL The NFL is trying to grow globally, not only to get more money in marketing deals.
Yep.
But they want the best 6'5" guys at 240, 250 pounds playing their sport.
Yep.
And coming to the NFL.
It doesn't matter where they come from.
Yeah. Doesn't matter where they come from. The International Pathway Program is a part of it, Nags. The decline of tackle football at early ages in the United States.
I mean, those numbers are real, man. And you're 100% right. When you have a whole generation, or at this point, maybe multiple generations who are like, yeah, no, I'm good when it comes to tackle football. Now, a whole generation of parents saying, Pop Warner, I don't think so. Well, now you better start casting your net a little wider to find those people.
Yeah, and it's no longer just Brett and whoever's running his Twitter account, which can't be him. Like, I mean, the volume of tweets that we're getting from Brett Favre, I'm fascinated to find out.
It's crazy, right? All of a sudden, although I will say, shout out to Brett Favre for retweeting She Said TV the other day.
Let's go.
You missed it, didn't you? I mean, it was insanity. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what?
Whoa!
Because when the whole kicker thing was percolating, Tyler put out a joking tweet, the Packers looking for anyone with kicking experience to report to 1265 Lombardi, and Brett retweeted it and said, just have Jordan go for it on every fourth down.
Love it.
He's still Brett. All the shit, all the stuff off the field, all the nonsense.
You really think that was him?
He's still Brett. Probably that one I could see being Brett. 100%.
Okay, because I do
all
have
stuff promoting the movie, probably not.
Well, and I'm wondering because I am weary after Dick Butkus was talking shit and it ended up being his grandson. I just want to make sure that it's not, his youngest daughter who's just pulling the curtain over all of us. He's like, all I wanted was there to be some good volleyballs for my daughter to play with. So yes, and everybody thinks I'm an asshole. So I need somebody else to come out here and change this. And she's like, Dad,
I have to get the PR going. I don't think so because there's all sorts of like MAGA stuff and like I just think it's him. I think
that's fair. Yeah, that's true.
I don't think the daughter's up there going, "Hey, let's see like 800 American like, I don't think that's happening.
Part of it.
I don't think that's the plan, But who knows? Hey, who knows? I don't know.
I do think he's trying to get some money for Southern Miss. She's trying to get some money for that volleyball.
Okay, that's a whole different podcast.
Deflated volleyballs that my daughter's supposed to be playing with.
That's a whole different podcast.
His net barely gets to 9 feet. All right, what did you expect me to do? I'm finding some money.
So here's my question.
Total joke.
Getting back to the game. Here's my question. If you're Jeff Hafley, do you have to fight the urge to just engage 8 on every play early in this game to make sure that Jalen Hurts can handle or can't handle the blitz? Like how bad they were at the end of last year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, repeat performances as far as teams just selling the farm to blitz this team, and they had no answers. I mean, 0 answers. And that's not just obviously the quarterback. It's not all on Hurts, but man, they had no answers. And I got to think Moore is a much more accomplished offensive mind / play caller. I think he'll have those answers.
Yeah.
But don't you want to make sure that they can pass that test first? Like, make them pass it?
Yeah, I want to see Cam Jurgens do it. I want to force and make the new center who's taken over for the first ballot Hall of Famer. I want to see him have to be stressed. And I think you see some of that. I also think it's a situation where the last time Packers fans got a chance to watch Jalen Hurts in a game, it was the best version of Jalen, right? Like he had just although he hadn't gotten hurt as he did the next week in 2022, he was the favorite to win the MVP at that point.
He was outstanding. He was outstanding.
He was taking any escape lane possible and making you pay to the nth degree for it. Not as many battle scars on this Packers team from personnel people that were doing it, right? I mean, like, obviously the front office was and Matt LaFleur was, but Hafley and the rest of the defensive staff, not. Players, maybe so. So they're not going to be hammering like you hit engage 8. I love that. They're not doing what I would have been doing, which is hitting R1, trying to figure out how I do quarterback contain to make sure that these rush lanes we're getting even. We're not getting past. We're making sure that he's not beating us in our man coverage, because they're going to run a whole lot of that.
Well, here's the question, though. I'm glad you brought that up, because I've been thinking about this as well. Do you, as Hafley, have to kind of back off maybe some of the man match stuff or even strict man stuff and run a bit more zone so you have eyes on the quarterback? And I know Packers fans will be like, what the hell?
A little bit.
We were all excited about some potential more man coverage, but if there's a matchup where it makes sense to maybe pull back on that a little bit, this might be it.
It would be this one, not only because of the quarterback, but also they got two of the better receivers in football on the outside, right? Like, I mean, you're forgetting Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown are two of the top 15 guys in the position, 20 guys at the position. They're being paid certainly like they are. So, there's a balancing act there of you want to show why you got the job. Because, I mean, it's been talked about so much that the aggressiveness is one of the reasons why Matt liked him. I can't not believe there's a piece of him that wants to prove that right.
Yeah, right out of the gate, right? Yeah, I think it's always a balancing act, and it's like what's so exciting about this game is the lack of information when it comes to these coaches and their mix of what the personnel is on hand. And there's just no history or statistics or like tendencies to draw from. That's what's going to be so exciting, right?
2 playoff teams from a year ago, 3 new coordinators out of 4, none of which because they got a new job.
No, they were
all of them were expelled. So I mean, it shows like there's an interesting spot.
Yeah, and then it's going to come down to a Naverson or however they pronounce his name.
Narv dog, baby. Come on now.
It's going to come down to him and having like a 52-yarder to win.
Holy shit. I think Narvison is going to be a lot of people's favorite 44. Now, you're going to be able to date back a lot longer than I on the great 44s in Green Bay Packers history.
You know what? None leap to mind. I'm sure there are several.
So Braden Narvison might be able to do it right there.
He's going to cement it. In-laws
from Wisconsin? Like, I mean, is there a more story right there?
Great. You're talking about his backward hat. Like, how great was that interview? Like, just so funny. I said this on Happy Hour last night.
I loved it, Nags.
I am not a kicker dude. Like, I do not traditionally watch interviews with kickers. I don't pay attention to the kickers. Just make your kicks, and I'll go about my life. But I gotta say he comes off very well, and I was very impressed with his vision of the game and his place in it. Like I was pleasantly surprised. I'm really hopeful.
Now maybe there's also everybody in the room saying like, "Hey, we talk it up better, it'll feel a lot better." Whatever ends up happening. But the outward excitement of it, I think more of that's not just, hey, he made 5 straight field goals. It's dude carries himself with a little bit of swag, a little something to it.
Well, but it's not arrogance. It's not cockiness.
No.
Right.
No, it's understanding of what your role is. And my role is to make the fucking kick and be okay with it. And if I don't, guess what? We'll probably end up losing the game. And I'm gonna have to wear it. Like, I loved the pressure is a privilege. Everybody's seen that. It's been on how many different posters before.
Yeah.
But when he says it's like, it's what you earn from the work that you've put in. He goes, I've been working for this my entire life. And you think that I'm going to be upset because I'm going to be nervous? And if any of these sons of bitches tell you that they're not nervous, they're lying to your face.
I love that he said that. I love that he said that.
That was awesome.
So spot on. So spot on.
I said it today. We were talking about it, and Schneidman was on the show, on the radio show today, and he even said it, and he's like, listen, I'm not going to try to get swept up in first impressions of it, but Kicker's first impression seems like a badass, seems like he might be amazing, and he's got a cool number, and he's got Wisconsin ties. Feels like he's going to be a Packer for a dozen years.
I'm all in on this. I'm all in on it. I'm excited.
Start by making, like, I don't know, your first 44 field goals.
That's perfect, right?
We'll even allow him to miss one of the extra points because I think he went 126 for 126 in his college career on extra points.
He was perfect on extra points in college.
Braden, don't worry about it. All right,
and he didn't miss one in the preseason either.
We'll give you a mulligan. We'll let you make. All you got to do is make your first, I don't know. I'll even lower it. 30 field goals. It's okay. Don't worry about it. You're welcome.
That's generous of you. I don't know if the greater Packers fandom at large will agree with you on that one, but I appreciate your grace. Hey, before we get going, I do have to let you know a very, very exciting update from the world of Madden. The Sao Paulo Stadium has been added in the latest update.
Let's go. So, we thought that DSL was going to come out March?
Week 8.
Let's go.
So I'm going to have to restart my season, obviously.
Yeah, and that doesn't
play that week 1 game.
Not because you're 5-7. No.
I'm 3-1, but I have to. That first game has to be played in the proper environment.
That's great news.
I won loss on the year. Yeah,
that's gonna happen. That's gonna happen when I get home tonight after a number of different fantasy football drafts. Let's go. That's
I had my fantasy draft last night, man. Oh, good times.
Josh Jacobs, Jordan Love.
Josh Jacobs was a keeper. So I already had him.
Go. Good work.
Yes, I drafted Jordan Love and I got Aaron Rodgers as my backup. So I'm ready to go.
There you go. Last pick was Tucker Kraft for me.
Oh, there you go. That's a good one.
Well, you gotta have somebody there on the bench that's sitting there.
And I had Jaden Reed as a keeper as well. So I've got
so you're green and gold out,
man.
There we go. More importantly, fantasy football team names. I think my favorites are throughout the year. You start leaking out throughout. Scott Hansen's P Jug is going to be hard for me to change from last year. However,
really good.
I just simply went with loading with three periods after because we had to change the name. So I was like, I don't really know of anything good.
So you just went with the whatever was on your screen at the moment, and something was loading.
To see how many different people will actually look at the name and be like, "How'd you come up with that?"
No, they'll look at the name and they'll wait for it to change because they'll think it's loading. They'll be like, "Gosh, it's been 10 minutes. It still says loading. I don't know what's going on here."
It's a mind trick. All I gotta do is take you off your game for 1 second, and then I got you.
I cannot wait for this game, Billy. I love talking football with you.
It's the best, man.
As everything else. Really appreciate the time as always. And next week, we are going to be on the airwaves across the great state of Wisconsin. How crazy is that?
It's amazing, dude. And for us to, we can get our shooting shirts off. I mean, we can stretch out a little bit, couple hours that we get to do Carry the G.
Carry the G radio, baby.
Radio, the podcast on radio.
On the radio.
Comes back next week.
Let's go. Make sure you're tuning into that 97.3 The Game and the YouTube channel right here on She Said TV. So if you're not in the Wisconsin area, you still can listen, participate. It's always a good time. Like I said earlier this offseason, I can't believe they're letting us do this again. I'm so excited. It's an
amazing fleece of how we've been able to do this. We've found a way to get multiple hours in the middle of the week and on YouTube and on that iHeartRadio app. I mean, if they're blocking out Twitter and X, they're not blocking out the iHeartRadio app. So if there's any holdovers in Brazil, listen to us on the beach.
There you go. Love it. I absolutely love it. Billy, thank you so much. Can't wait for this big Packers W. I'll talk to you next week.
It's gonna be awesome, man. Safe travels.